Hey guys, thanks for coming back to the channel. Appreciate you checking out the newest video. I just got an eBay order in, opened up the box to have a look at what I actually got, and it's looking pretty good so far. So what I ended up ordering was this Prewar Lionel 259. Now, this one has an E-unit in it, as you can see right there. So this technically would be a 259E. Maybe the E unit was added afterwards. Maybe the little label in the front's not the real one. But we're going to dive into this and have a look. The seller listed that the wheels were locked up on this locomotive. No big deal to me. But the reason I bought it was it's complete. It's got all its parts. The trucks are there. Both pickup rollers are there, which is great, especially in the pre-war locomotives. It looked sharp. All the trim is there. The wheels, the actual drive wheels, have already been replaced. So to me, it was a no-brainer. It was already complete, looked pretty decent. So let's pull the trigger on it, and I did. But right now, let's dive a little bit deeper and see exactly what it is I have, and maybe figure out why these wheels are locked up. So let's take a look. Okay, so here we are. We've got the 259 on the bench. This is my eBay purchase. Clearly, they either bought it for or were trying to sell it at a train show for 20 bucks. Paid a little bit more than that, but still a decent price for what I got. And what I got, once I got it in my hand, was a 259 that I could see clearly had some restoration work done to it. The repaint on this, it's pretty good, to be honest with you. It's not over the whole locomotive. The front has definitely been repainted. We'll ignore that for now. The front end looks like it's been repainted. The tender definitely has been repainted. But there are some spots on here that are still clearly its original paint. On the cylinders here, the side here looks like it's still original. The cab itself still looks original. There's some touch-ups there. But as I said, all in all, this thing is complete. And with that restoration, I can see someone's already gone ahead and put new wheels on here. These are not the original wheels because they're not all pitted and falling apart, which they normally would be. So that's good. It's got its original front truck. It's got the original rear truck, actually a repop. This was another thing I could see why it was a restoration. If you have a look at this way too shiny silver, it actually looks like it was painted, but it's not. It's just, it is the cast metal, that's for sure. But, you know, the bracket looks like it's original, but these wheels are definitely replacements. Same thing with this here. The the wheel holder itself, original, wheels are replaced. So wheels all around have been replaced, which is great because that saves me like a couple $100 anyways. The pin holding on the rear truck is actually not the correct one. So it fell a bit short with the original setup that whoever did this had. So the trucks were sitting, as you can see, they originally sat way too high, but with a little bit of adjustment, I can bring them down. Not a problem. Now, in the seller's description, the seller mentioned that the wheels were stuck. And as you try to spin them around, they definitely hit a certain spot, and that's it. But looking at them visually, there's nothing wrong with them. The motor is very clean. It has been serviced to a point. So my question is, why are the wheels not turning? And it didn't take very long with a little bit of investigation to realize someone didn't watch my video on quartering wheels when you're replacing them. So what I mean by that is let's set this side up so that the screw hole that holds the driver arms on is sitting at 12 o'clock high. That means when I flip this train over, these holes for the driver arms should either be sitting at quarter to or quarter past. And when I flip the locomotive around, they are not doing that. They're pointing down here. So they should be up here like this, or straight back like that. And that is the only reason these wheels are binding. We're going to take all of the driver arms off and see if the wheels are binding in the motor because of the motor, or is it because the driver arms aren't positioned properly. So by removing the main driver arm here on each side, I can give the wheels a spin, and they spin perfectly fine. So it's not in the motor, it's in the alignment of these driver arms. These wheels are put on wrong, so that's the first thing that's going to bind this up badly. They need to be quartered properly in order for the driver arms to run smoothly, and since they're not, that is going to cause a binding. So we're going to have to pop these wheels off, and I'm going to pop off the non-gear side, and we'll set them up properly, put the wheels back on, and we can check our alignment and see if everything works properly. And I think that is actually going to solve our problems right away. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take off this nut at the back, and that should drop this motor out, as I don't see anything else that's holding it in. Again, not super familiar with the Prewar, so I kind of learn as I go with these. I don't have a manual for it, and there's not a lot of good information online or on YouTube, so hopefully this video I'm making for this particular locomotive is going to help the next person repair theirs. So let's get to that right now. I'm going to need to get a nut driver to get in there, and let's unbolt this motor. So I got a 1/4 inch nut driver. I don't need to put a ratchet on the end of this because this thing is actually pretty loose. And that's just going to come out right away with the washer behind it. And we can slide this motor out. And we can have a look inside. And it is in pretty phenomenal condition, that's for sure. Which is great. So I'm going to put the shell off to the side, and let's just deal with the motor as it is right now. So the motor, again, is turning nice and free. Maybe we can pop off this driver arm as well. Is that loose? No, that's just the wrong size. So it was a 1/4 inch nut that was holding this back on, and the nuts for the driver arms are 7/32. So we'll just take that off, not lose it, and put it off to the side. And once again, looking at the motor itself, the wires are in great shape. The E-unit still connects nicely. Got a very thin handle for this E-unit usually, or I'm used to the post-war E-units which have a little more meat on the metal there. But all in all, that looks pretty good. While we're here, I'm going to pop off this brush plate and see what's going on under there. Make sure it's all nice and clean. There's our brushes. Yeah, it's dirty. Lifts right out. Not a problem. Those look nice and clean. The face of this, we're just going to touch this up, of course, with the green Scotch pad. And I can see that there is a lot of dirt stuck in between the copper plates, so we'll deal with that as well. And with just a quick little buff, we already got all that carbon off. So it really wasn't that bad. Someone has already done a fairly decent job on this. I'm just going to get my little toothpick tool so I can scrape out these little grooves here, get the dirt out of them. Once again, the best tool I find for cleaning that out is these plastic toothpick things. It looks like they don't have the space in them like the pre-war stuff does. No, they don't. That's all resin in there or something. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that then. Let's have a look at this itself. So I'm just going to give it a quick wipe out there. Again, this thing is in pretty good shape as it stands, so I don't need to do a whole lot to it. But let's put the armature back in. So just drop that in, line it up with the gear on the other side. And we're good to go there. The brush holders, they look pretty good too. Tighten up this screw. Let's take this side off. Have a look at that gear. There you go. It's looking pretty good. Just going to put some fresh grease on there. It looks fairly old. I use my old trusty wheel bearing grease. Let's put a shot on there. Just like that. I don't want to get too much. And put the plate back on. So what we're going to do before we go any further with removing wheels or anything like that is I'm going to bench test this to make sure it actually runs. Now looking at the wiring and everything else, everything looks good. I'm expecting that this will actually move. But stranger things have happened. So before I invest too much time in pulling off wheels and reinstalling them, we're going to just make sure it runs as it is right now. So I'm going to clear this off, clean up the bench a little bit, and then throw on a test track and transformer, and let's see what we got. So you guys go grab a coffee or something. I'm going to clean this mess up, and I'll meet you back here in a minute. Okay, so I got a test track set up here, and power going to it. Let's clean off some of the fuzz on this E-unit. And let's see if this actually moves. I'm hearing something. But I'm not hearing... Oh, there's the E-unit. So there's power going through this thing, but I might have to pull this E-unit off and give it a look. So right away, I'm looking at this drum here in the E-unit, and I can see that it's really, really dirty. Also, taking a look at it, I'm looking at the fingers which make a contact to the drum itself. They're all in place. The wires are all okay. So that's good. But we're going to have to clean that drum. So what I'm going to do is I am going to open the E-unit, get that drum out. And opening the E-unit means you just spread the sides of it open, and the whole thing will pop apart. It's just pressure fit. It's not bolted or welded or anything like that. But you do want to be careful not to shoot parts off like that off your bench. Okay, so here is the drum, and as you can see, it's pretty dirty. And we don't want that. We want this copper to look like copper. Give it a good scrub down. There we go. Looking great already. And usually what I find with all of the post-war stuff that I've dealt with, maybe not all of it, most of it, cleaning is the thing that keeps them from running the most. Seeing a lot of carbon buildup, a lot of dirt, dog carpet, hair, fibers, all that stuff built up over the decades is really going to affect this. And I'm looking now at the fingers of the contact fingers in the E, and you can see the black spots on them. They actually kind of look burnt too. That's a concern. But seeing all that black on there, that's inhibiting the contact to the drum. So just with a gentle wiping, that's all going to come off. And it is. As you can see, it's already shined up nicely. And I'm not putting much pressure on that at all. So there they are now. That's what I want to see there. Now we'll go to the other side. Once again, seeing a lot of black. Just a little bit of wiping. You can get like a screwdriver or something underneath just to give it a bit of support if you want to. Just like that. And just a couple wipes, you can already see the difference. So, this might have been the whole source of our troubles for this thing running, is right here. All right, so let's put the E-unit back together. You don't have to worry about cleaning anything else. We've got all the major bits and pieces taken care of here. You want the teeth of this roller, as you can see, they do go in a certain direction here. You want the teeth to hook under this pawl. So if this is the pawl and this is the drum, let's say this is the drum, you want the teeth to mesh under the pawl that way. So when you're reinstalling it, you got to pay attention to that. Okay, so we've got the E-unit back together and cleaned. I'm going to reassemble this and see if that changes anything. Clean brushes, clean armature. We've got a clean E-unit. All the wires are intact. Let's hook this back up to the test track and see if any of that work made a difference. So we've gotten the wheels off by doing the twisty screwdriver motion, and I've reset this side so they're both pointing down to 6 o'clock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to quarter these wheels by putting them at quarter past. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my bench vise right now, set that up, and I'm going to use that to press these wheels back on. This one is quartered properly. We're going to get on to the next one now. So I'm going to line that up exactly like this. Oh, that one's quite loose. I can just hand press that one on. There we go. So the driver arms are going to hold that together. I've had this problem before with some Scouts where one of the wheels was loose. But once the driver arms are bolted on, it'll hold everything into place just fine. So, having said that, let's get these bolted up and make sure everything's set up good. Now, I'm reinstalling the motor into the shell here. And just like on some of the Scouts and some of the 1666 and those locomotives, there's two little tabs here in the front behind the cylinders. And the tabs of this motor here are going to fit into those. So that's your alignment. And then the back goes over this threaded pin at the back. So we're going to kind of scoop the headlight under, kind of feel around to line those tabs up, because we can't really see them. Make sure your E-unit is poking through and not getting pinched or bent. And let's get everything lined up. Okay, so that's that. Let's get the, I don't think that was this nut here. Nope. Let's get the right driver for that. Tighten that back up. There we go. Now, oops, put the screw on the wrong side. No binding. Everything is working as it should. All right, so we are back in business. So let's put the rear truck on. And since it sat originally, or since it sat pretty high with this little cotter pin repair thing, I'm going to not put in the washer that someone else threw in there. So when they did their little restoration, this isn't actually the correct pin that was used in the first place. Let me see if I have. Here we go. So on the original pin that held these rear trucks on the 259 and pretty much all other pre-war Lionel stuff that I've seen, it looked like this. So it was a post with a notch in it, and then this little washer thing, locking clip, fit over top of that and held everything together. Whoever put this on did not put the original piece back on. I don't know what happened. But I'm not going to try to get that out and do anything with it. I am just going to use what's already here, open up this cotter pin to lock it into place, just like that. And that's going to hold the rear truck just fine. Still allows it to swivel. Now let's put it on the track and see if it still runs when it's all together. Shell is back on. Everything's fixed up again. E-unit's been cleaned. Armature's been cleaned. Wiring has been checked. We have quartered the wheels properly. Let's see if it still runs. We got lights. We got forward. We got reverse. It does. I think we got to work the bugs out of the E-unit a little bit. I think it's been sitting for a while. But aside from that, this thing runs. The wheels weren't bound up, they were just installed wrong, so we've corrected that. Cleaned everything up a little bit. I think the last thing we got to do is fix the latch on this tender, because I have no idea what these people were thinking when they did this. I think that's close enough for me, because I don't want to break that part. So we got that hooked up to the tender. Sure. Yeah, E-unit's already starting to come around with a little bit more use. So that's a great sign. This was a great buy. The price I paid for this and what I actually had to do to it is well worth it here. Looking at the paint again and seeing where the actual touch-ups are, you know, and looking at the inside of this, when I had that motor out, a lot of this is probably more original paint than I thought in the first place. But regardless, it's fine by me. I mean, this looks great. It works perfectly fine. And now it's time to get it on the track and hook it up to some cars. And let's see it in proper action. So I'm going to put this stuff away and I'll meet you guys over at the big track. So that's it. I gotta say I'm pretty happy. I'm glad I pulled the trigger on this purchase. I mean, it's not my favorite locomotive. The pre-war steam engines of this era, they still have that tin toy look. I'm not a big fan of it, but still, I'm glad I went for it. I'm glad I purchased this. Like I said, if this didn't have all of the parts to it, if it wasn't a complete locomotive, I definitely wouldn't have pulled the trigger on the purchase. But seeing that these main wheels were replaced, which is a huge expense, was definitely a bonus for me. So, hey, thank you guys very much for watching. And again, you see great deals, just read the description carefully. Or if you go to a train show and you see something like this where the wheels might be a little bit locked up, just a quick little inspection right there on the spot could tell you maybe it's something you can handle at home with some basic tools and get a great running locomotive. So, guys, thank you very much for watching this. I appreciate your help and support. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the like bell. And I think I got to change my name from the post-war guy to the pre-war guy. See you on the next video. Ciao for now.